All right, so as you can probably see, this is another one where we had multiple options, and there was an obvious choice here that we didn't go with
Gridiron
because
Gang?
I feel like that's so close to this. But like I feel like we're close to doing that for some reason. But the thing was we were starting with the longest yard,
Mm-hmm.
so naturally the other one would have been the Water Boy.
Mm-hmm.
But then you made a good argument for the replacements, which was, you
Mm-hmm.
know what that was?
Do I remember what it was?
Yeah,
They all have like issues.
yeah, like they're all like in the longest yard, the whole team is like misfits.
Mm-hmm.
And while you could probably say the team in the Water Boy is misfits, Bobby Boucher is so much that it's like he's his own kind of misfit.
Yeah.
Whereas the replacements is kind of in the same vein as the longest yard, where all of the team players are kind of like that and have their own quirk or whatever you want to call it.
How funny is it in the replacements that Jon Favreau is a cop, but he kind of would be right at home on Adam Sandler's convict team?
And this, of course, obviously, another thing you could put with the longest yard is the original movie from 1974 that also had programs.
And Gridiron Gang.
But aside from Gridiron Gang, I don't know if are you aware of the fact that the long Sandler's Longest Yard is not the first remake of this.
No.
There's also the Vinnie Jones movie Mean Machine,
Huh.
which obviously, of course, because it's British, it's soccer, but it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Huh.
And it's like it's in that vein where like it was kind of in the Guy Ritchie era, like Matthew Vaughn produced it.
Mm-hmm.
It was in kind of that area around the time like Lock, Stock, and Snatch were happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we ended up settling on the longest yard and replacements.
There were a lot of options because what just came to mind to me was also Necessary Roughness and North Dallas 40.
North Dallas 40 would go great with the original.
Mm-hmm.
I could go the rest of my life without seeing Necessary Roughness again, but
You know, I think a couple years ago they made it into a TV show, don't you?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I remember.
Any Given Sunday could have found its way in here too.
Yeah, the tone would have been way off, but yeah.
Yeah. Hell, you could have gone with Remember the Titans.
Yeah. I did remember the Titans with Blair Marshall a while back.
Ah.
And in that video, I forgot to tell the story of how you met Anthony Mackie while he was filming We Are Marshall. I've told that story so many times, and in my We Are Marshall video, I forgot.
Yeah, because you probably talked about how good he was in it and then just didn't think about it.
Yeah, that's the dumbest part, I think. I even think it was in my notes. And I just, yeah. But anyway, and yeah, you bring up Any Given Sunday. Between Any Given Sunday and the replacements, I could also go the rest of my life without ever seeing another person puke on a football field. But here we are. It always happens for some reason. I can barely look at Jamie Foxx at all watching Any Given Sunday because I never remember when it happened.
I love that there's a literal eye on the field and the puke is what gets you.
Good God, Oliver Stone, settle down. But yes, we're about to go through the whole history of football in movies.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with a movie called Leatherheads, and it goes from there. But yeah,
there's been a lot of movies made about football.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great ones, and a lot of them suck. I haven't talked about Rudy yet on this channel.
Yeah. Does Concussion count as a football movie? I haven't seen it.
It probably counts enough. I can't remember how much is actually shown in it, but yeah. But the thing about this, though, is that the reason I was skeptical about doing the replacements with the longest yard is that I don't like the replacements. And and Owen tells me frequently, sometimes it makes even better videos if I don't like the movie.
Yeah.
With the versus thing, I'm usually talking about movies that I do like. And it's like what you had said that you like the replacements. Like you and like our friend group at the time it came out were all over this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was all over this movie. I had a friend that lived down the street that was always quoting the "I look like I jacked off an elephant" line.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the lines that stand out to you, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't get it. I just was not a fan of this movie at all. And I can't say that.
I remember I tried to tell you that it was because you were anti-Gene Hackman.
Which I have shown plenty of times on this channel now. That is not true. That was a conspiracy theory made by you. You tried to do the same thing with Harrison Ford.
So here's a question. After we talk about the replacements and we've done Dirty Work and Problem Child, have you ever talked about Jack Warden this much on your channel?
No. You and me doing this opened the Jack Warden floodgates. And here's the thing, is right before me and you started doing this, I did 12 Angry Men. Like, right before. So it's just been nonstop ever since then.
Is Jack Warden the actor we've seen the most since we've started doing these?
Without even thinking about it, he has to be. There's no way.
Speaking of Problem Child, I forgot to tell you, based on our video that we did with UHF, the other day it was on demand, so I watched it. I've now seen Stay Tuned.
Do you wish you had seen it before the video?
I do. I do.
So I had figured that it would be, we talk about The Longest Yard, and we talk about how we like it. It may not be as funny as it was in 2005, but we still like it.
There's a lot that doesn't fly today, too, that flew in 2005.
And then I said, oh, so here's what we can do. I can talk about why I don't like the replacements, and then you can defend it. And then you basically said, well...
Yeah.
It's like, so we'll see what happens. We've built up a lot about what we're going to talk about. I guess we should just start talking about it.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with The Longest Yard?
Yeah, we can start there.
All right. I was talking to you about how I had forgotten just how much of a direct remake it is of the original, because tonally it feels like they're totally different almost.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the opening scene, when you see this, I'm gonna try to not make this a original versus remake of The Longest Yard because we still got other places to do, but it is worth. You can see immediately the differences in regards to the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Where the original movie is 3 years prior to Smokey and the Bandit.
Mm-hmm.
But the car chase at the beginning still feels like old-fashioned, like almost like a prelude to Smokey and the Bandit.
So it just feels like classic Burt Reynolds then.
Yeah. And it's like you watch the remake and it's Sandler blatantly against the green screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right. But like I said, I'll try not to do too much of that comparison to the original.
Is the original? I haven't seen the original in a long, long time. I don't even know if I've seen the original all the way through. Is it a cameo fest like Sandler's is?
No. The only like really recognizable face on the team that I remember is Richard Gere, who interestingly enough has the Sandler connection. Yeah, Mr. Larson was in The Longest Yard before Happy Gilmore was. But obviously we do have returning faces. Like I want to say there's only 2. I could be forgetting one, but obviously Burt Reynolds carries over.
Yeah.
And this is kind of in an era where Burt Reynolds was like just having fun with his own movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was in the original Longest Yard, then he showed up in this. He was in Deliverance, then he showed up in Without a Paddle. The Jay Chandra Segar's Dukes of Hazzard, which only has gone down. So it's pretty much just an Otis Smokey and the Bandit, which would explain him playing Boss Hogg.
Yeah.
This is just kind of in that era where he was like having fun with his old movies.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the one scene on the golf course with the warden and Ed Lauter is there.
Yeah.
And you may remember that Ed Lauter played William Fichtner's part in the original movie.
Yeah.
So they're kind of doing those callbacks there, but at its core, even though it's not those moments, and even though it's a pretty direct remake, this is absolutely a Sandler movie.
Going back to Ed Lauder for a second, I feel bad because I'm sure Ed Lauder is a great actor. But every time I see Ed Lauder, all that comes to mind is the coach from Not Another Teen Movie.
Yeah.
That's all that comes to mind.
And picking up Chris Evans, just breaking him over his knee will never not kill him. Unfortunately, don't forget you gotta say was with Ed Lauder.
Yeah. Is that a movie you've talked about on this channel?
Not another thing movie, it's not.
Oh, we got to change that.
So, what's your take on The Longest Yard overall?
I agree with you. I think it was a lot funnier in 2005, but there's still some stuff that holds up. I think we'll start with Cromwell. I think Cromwell is perfectly cast.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not. We were talking about this before we started filming. Rolling was we turned the camera on, whatever you want to call it. Where there's some scene where we were talking about where Sandler's movies are at today for the most part, like the Happy Madison movies, we'll say where they are today. Where like even Spade's most recent movie is him going on vacation somewhere. But there's cases where like when he's doing scenes with Cromwell, you can almost see it in Sandler's face where he's saying like, "Oh damn, it's James Cromwell. I have to act today."
Yeah.
Like especially the moment where he's talking about like framing him for caretaker's murder.
Yeah.
It's like he really has to act in that scene.
Yeah.
And then there's just kind of the whole thing where it kind of, basically talking about him being the warden and the fact this is a prison movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like this a lot in the original as well. You kind of have to really be careful. Like, it's kind of a slippery slope to make a prison comedy.
Yeah.
Because I thought Life handled this really well. And it's funny to bring Life into this because the big guy that played Goldmouth in Life is in The Replacements.
Yeah.
When you're doing a prison comedy, you're surrounding your main character with people that are like murderers in some cases. Like, I think in the original they go a little more into this, but the fact that you're making an upbeat comedy about these people reaching triumph when they beat the guards at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to this movie, all of these individual prisoners were probably the antagonist in their own horror movie. And now they're all grouped together to have this triumphant moment where it's them versus the guards.
There are some people that I would love to know what they did. Like, I want to know what Swatowski did.
Yeah, because there's a similar problem, I feel. But I feel like The Longest Yard isn't as much of an issue here. A similar problem that The Longest Yard and The Replacements has is that we talk about all the prisoners have like their own quirk and their own personality.
Mm-hmm.
They're also all just that. Like they're all that one thing. They're all one joke characters.
Are you thinking of Brucey? Because I would argue that Brucey is multifaceted.
Elaborate.
Okay, what is Brucey's defining character trait? I'm asking you. Because you said they all have like the one trait that defines them.
I'm trying to sort out the character names in my head. Because there was Terry Crews is the cheeseburger dude.
Yeah. Brucey is Nicholas Turturro.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I see where I think I can see where you're going with this being multifaceted.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny, something that caught my attention before you go into his multifaceted nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a shame the timelines don't match up because Nicholas Turturro has a very brief but very crucial role in Black Klansman.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason he's crucial is because of his time in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if only the timelines matched up, I would love for this to be a shared universe.
But you were saying, like, when I say multifaceted, it's not as deep as you think it's going to be. But you said that each character is just that. So give me an example.
Well, there's Terry Crews with the cheeseburger thing. There's Tracy Morgan doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's the guy. It just really slipped out of my head again. The guy that Chris Rock calls Shrek.
Switowski.
Yeah, that's what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Is his one thing. Like, he's the guy that Richard Kiel was playing in the original movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thing where it's
Oh,
like,
I thought Richard Kiel would have been Turley.
yeah, you would think so. But no,
Mm-hmm.
even like I was talking about, it's a direct remake. The breaking the nose scene even happens in the original. And it's like, I get the big guy is actually really soft joke. You know, because there's cliche jokes that can still work no matter what. Like, there's one joke I will always defend. Like, it's stupid and cliche, but it makes me laugh every single time.
Okay.
As the cliche of, you have the really big, seemingly threatening character that is revealed has a high-pitched scream. That's a joke. It's usually in animated movies, and that joke makes me laugh every time, no matter how dumb it is, no matter how much it's used. So you can make a really cliche joke work if you do it the right way.
Okay, let me extend on that. How do you feel about after Kevin Nash starts taking estrogen pills?
I think it was funnier in 2005 because it was so unexpected of him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, now that we've seen him in other comedies, and he's kind of pretty much fallen in with Sandler's crew, it's, when you go back and watch it, it doesn't like have that factor of, what in the hell? I did not see this coming. But because I think another reason it was so funny in 2005 is, I remember the night we saw it, the theater was packed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it more than once, or did you just see it that day with me?
I think just that once.
Yeah, and it's one of those cases where when the theater was packed, it being a group laugh experience, I think enhanced it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially by the end, there's just a whole lot of those like throwaway comments that are meant to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's the thing where we have Chris Rock here. And the great thing about having Chris Rock as caretaker is his commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Like the little comments that he makes here and there, like calling him Shrek, like saying, down Shrek, down.
Mm-hmm.
When he has the Friday-inspired F-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Even just little mundane comments that aren't even that funny, just his delivery sells it. Like when Terry Crews is doing the robot,
Mm-hmm.
and he just says, "That's a big-ass robot." Like, that's not a very funny line, but his delivery sells it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's his stand-up comedy coming into play.
Yeah, there are a couple of bits in here where I was like, that sounds straight out of his comedy. But that's the thing, is I feel like that commentary provided, by the time we reach the game, there's definitely something missing without him.
I just thought of another thing that's kind of funny. It's kind of cliche, but the way that Chris Rock delivers it is funny. Is when Sandler's playing basketball against Michael Irvin, and Burt Reynolds starts rooting for him, and caretaker's like, no, don't start with the brothers now. And
like
then by the end of it, he just moves away from Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, of course. Even with the water boy in play, you might go into this thinking, I can't imagine Adam Sandler as a star football player. Like, even with the water boy, I can't do it.
How many sports has Sandler played now?
And that's what I was going to mention was, if you can't buy Sandler as a football player, it makes perfect sense that he's like, all right, well, have me play basketball in the movie, because Sandler can actually play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's what half of Grown Ups was Sandler playing basketball.
I think the one time I was flipping channels and it went by, I think it was a scene of him playing basketball.
Of course, I think it's even a plot point after a while. But the thing also, interestingly enough, about killing Rock
Mm-hmm.
is they do something clever in that scene. When David Patrick Kelly kills him. Because in the original movie, he like injects the light bulb so that when he ignites it, it blows up and kills him.
Yeah.
And I love that they play on that. Like they play on the idea of people being familiar with that in the remake, and they fake you out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like a lot of suspense to him turning the light on and nothing happens, and then it's like the radio.
Mm-hmm.
The Pet Sematary remake was full of that shit.
Oh.
Hey, remember this thing in the original? Well, it's not quite that thing. It's the thing right after. I thought that was a clever move. I mean, I like the placement of the Friday-inspired F-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
But with the original being rated R, do you think this one works as PG-13?
I don't really see how making it R would have really enhanced it.
There's one scene that makes me think it feels a little watered down in a kind of a weird way. Maybe this is just me. It's another Rock scene. I guess you hadn't noticed, I think Rock is MVP of this movie. It's the scene of like, who are we going to beat? And they save the guards.
Mm-hmm.
And then we bring back the Nicholas Stroh might be gay joke with him saying, who are we going to kiss? And he's the only one that says the guards.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't kiss seem so light for this group of people? Does it not seem like there's another cut where Rock says, who are we going to fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just me.
No, I think the F-bomb might have worked better there.
Yeah. Because there's like a, I can't remember what the word is now. I just lost it. But there's like a falsity going around that the one PG-13 F-bomb can't be in the context of sexual.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I didn't even know that was like a preconceived notion.
Yeah, and people repeat it. There's so much misinformation about the MPAA and PG-13 and the F-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one, it's three, and you can say it in a sexual context. My go-to example is My Best Friend's Wedding, of all things.
Mm-hmm.
So the F-bomb could have definitely been put in that scene, but the Friday reference works also. But like I said, you can get away with three. You can. So they could have done both if they wanted to, but it depends on how heavy they get. But yeah, that's a tirade I just get off on sometimes, but we'll try to come back. What else here do you like?
William Fichtner.
Yeah, he's another person like Cromwell where he's like perfectly cast.
Yeah.
He really sells the turnaround also where he like starts to respect him.
Yeah.
Because that's something that could be really cheesy, but it worked well in the original and it works well here because while they set up the Lauder/Fichtner character as like a good villain, and like the fact he's beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
I like that moment where they build up to it, where we see him take his nightstick out, and then we just pan over to the shadow, and he does it again. I like that we see him taking it out before it cuts away. But it's
I like too how the warden doesn't change.
Yeah, I think that's why having the character change for the guard, the captain, works so well. Is that it's not a full change because we still have the warden keeping a straight line going.
Yeah. What do you think of Cloris Leachman in this movie?
I do. It is because that was Bernadette Peters in the original.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like. I mean, it feels obvious in hindsight, but I do like that's another thing that's from the original that they like expanded on and made their own joke out of.
Mm-hmm.
Because Bernadette Peters in the original is just Bernadette Peters, and he's like, he'll like willfully sleep with her.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, all right, yeah, let's do this. And it's like the fact that it's the same joke, but it's Forrest Wakeman now. It's like that's another one of those good changes of taking the original and kind of making their own thing out of it.
Yeah.
It's worth noting the director is Peter Siegel,
Mm-hmm.
who had previously done Anger Management with Sandler, and it was also responsible for Tommy Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just talked about him this past weekend because he did My Spy,
Mm-hmm.
and then he did right after this he did Get Smart. And he's a pretty effective comedic director. Like My Spy is better than it looks. Like he's got a really good grasp on comedy. He can occasionally take it into those action aspects, even if it seems. Because for the most part, in a movie that's a clean cut comedy, action is going to seem a bit, cheaply done. I'm thinking of the car chase at the beginning of The Longest Yard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's just another thing we talked about with kind of cliche character moments
Mm-hmm.
is the introduction of Charlie, where we bring him out, and it's a reveal that I like when he's all big and he's all really threatening, and then that cut of him just playing ping pong against the wall. That's really fun. And then when Sandler's playing with him and he's like kind of trying to joke around with him, he's just he keeps casually playing, but he's like, stay calm. Oh, another person here is Babyface Bob.
Yeah.
Remember, the guy who is Steve Rivas, who we just lost recently. He's the guy that plays Shep Proudfoot in Fargo. And his interactions with the announcers is really great for the most part.
Did you know that there's a extra scene? Because what got me the idea to do this one is I caught it on TV, and they throw in an extra scene before the end credits, and it's Chris Berman getting in his car to go to the airport, and Babyface Bob is driving.
I love that. I wish I had seen that. And just their little moments, like I love when he makes that noise.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, make that noise again, and he does. And he's like, I like that.
Or when Chris Berman's like, it's nice to see you smile, and he just says, thank you.
Yeah, because you think it's I like that they didn't go the obvious direction where it would be like he seems happy, but then he goes back to stern. I like that he stays like his barrier gets busted down and he stays happy.
Yeah, his wall comes down further as the game goes on.
Yeah, that's great. That's so much better than if he had like been happy for a second and then went back to stern, because that would have been the cliche.
Well, he kind of does whenever Sandler stops trying.
Yeah,
but it's not anger; it's more like concern.
Yeah, it's with purpose.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that him being in the commentary booth, I think, is the first time we meet him. I don't remember seeing him. No, he's at the prison one time. Sandler goes to sit down beside him on his first day, and he like grunts at him. That's the only other time we saw him.
Yeah, because there's a great joke in the original movie that I'm kind of surprised this one didn't use, but it's kind of nice. It's kind of like them deciding they wanted to use their own jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was they say like, he's Indian, don't make jokes about it, and then they're talking, and then he's just kind of talking to them normally, mm-hmm. and then Reynolds is like, so we're going to put a team together and we're going to get back at the guards, and he just says how, and Reynolds just freezes. and then he answers like you expect him to say it back, obviously, mm-hmm. but he just freezes for a long time and then answers. I like that they didn't just straight up steal that joke from the original. They made the character like a new joke.
Yeah.
And without using that like as the jumping off point for it. Like it's the joke is that he's so stern-faced until he's not. I do think. Do you think that? I mean, I talked about this with Rock, but also just kind of in a general sense. Do you think that the laughs are definitely not near as big in the second half?
Yeah, it becomes more about the game itself.
Yeah, like it feels like it ditches big laughs. It just goes for like a bunch of cheap little laughs. Like they start doing like quantity over quality after a while with the jokes there towards the end, where it's just like all one-liners, and honestly, a lot of them aren't landing because they're just trying to do so much of them at once. Like every time it cuts to somebody else, they try a one-liner, and it just kind of becomes.
It's funny how you're talking about the comedy breaking down in the second half after you just praised Babyface Bob.
That's the exception.
Yeah, because we even get to the point that we're trying to reuse Rob Schneider from The Waterboy.
Yeah, that felt a little desperate. I feel like that joke peaked when the animal came out and it was Sandler doing it. I feel like that should have been the end of that joke.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So
I will say this: in the second half, the football game is shot very nicely.
yeah, I think it works better than the ending game and the replacements.
Yeah.
And there's also I like when they come back out. Like we were talking about Sandler calling back to his other movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Rob Schneider thing is like, seems a little desperate. Honestly, you know a callback I actually really like? The callback to The Stroke when they come out.
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of a cool callback.
We were talking about other shots. I don't know why this shot stuck out to me, but I love the shot where they're going into the locker room and Cromwell just like clears his throat to get Sandler's attention. And when we cut to Cromwell, he's in like the shadows. Like he looks very ominous.
Yeah. That was just reminding me of another interaction between Sandler and Cromwell that I like. Is at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When he's getting ready to tell him the plan, and you know very much that Crew doesn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandler has this perfect delivery of realizing that he's accidentally walked into something.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's just kind of talking, and then Cromwell says, "You know, you've given me an inspiration." And Sandler's delivery of "That's great, what?" Right when he says "what," he does that turn away like shit. I walked right into it. But he barely changes his tone, and that's like the brilliance of that delivery. But you can sense that he knows what's just happened.
And it's reinforced whenever Cromwell asks for Fichtner's opinion, and he's like, "Oh, I think it's a great idea."
So yeah, is that the longest yard in a nutshell, pretty much?
Pretty much, yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's very toes the line in 2020, but you can't take a movie from a different time and compare it to now.
Yeah, Stone Cold's racial slurs to Nelly was something I totally forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
It
Which
was
is
like,
it's so funny because if you look at Stone Cold's Instagram, like that's not him at all. Like you would think, but it's not. But a lot of wrestlers in this movie.
Yeah, wasn't that kind of the thing in this era of movies?
It was 2000, yeah. But it was a lot of older wrestlers like Kevin Nash, Stone Cold, Goldberg. And then Turley, I don't think became a wrestler till after.
Yeah, I can't remember because he was after my time, like watching wrestling. But Owen had watched enough wrestling at the time where I knew who he was.
Yeah.
I think he's also one of the crew with like Jericho and stuff at the beginning of MacGruber, I think.
Probably.
I'm
still on a quest to find MacGruber streaming somewhere.
I get the cast in this and the cast in MacGruber at the beginning mixed up sometimes. Like I keep forgetting that Jericho's not in The Longest Yard.
He'd fit.
Yeah, if The Longest Yard came out today, he would be definitely.
Yeah, he would fit.
He'd probably be like Nicholas DeForest's part or something.
I don't know. I don't know. So I could see him being a guard though too.
Oh yeah. All right, so do we?
Or hell, maybe even like the warden.
That'd be interesting. I do like the idea of like a seasoned veteran actor playing the warden. Like it's Eddie Albert in the original from like Green Acres.
Who would it be now?
Oh shit! I feel on the spot. Somebody?
No, I'm blanking.
Damn it. Maybe just like. Well, no, that probably would have been like at the time the movie actually came out. I could also see somebody like Bruce Dern.
Yeah, that's true. Robert Redford could have done it.
That would have been random.
He just have to play it like he played Pierce and Winter Soldier.
I love how you're comparing James Cromwell's warden to the guy that shot his maid for hearing too much.
Oh, before we go, we have to make our point that we brought up earlier about how this could tie into Uncut Gems.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's like the whole thing about sports betting being involved. It's like we were talking about. It's like when I was talking with Black Klansman, it's like there's so many potential weird shared universes here.
Yeah, like Uncut Gems could easily be a sequel where Paul Crewe falls back in his old ways and he actually has to pay for it.
Which suddenly makes the ending of the movie so depressing for The Longest Yard.
Yeah.
Because I do like that. That's something I like about both this and the original was I feel like in a lesser comedy, the whole thing would have been like there would have been a deal between Crewe and the warden where the warden would say like, if you guys beat the guards, I'll let you go free or something like that. I love that the movie ends with him just having to serve his time.
Yeah, because he actually, as he's leaving, he asks Burt Reynolds, he's like, so what do we do now? It's like the ending of Finding Nemo when they're all in the bags in the ocean and Brad Garrett just goes, now what? And it just cuts to credits.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing, too, where it's a weird line because it's like, he may not be a murderer like the other people, which is weird enough that it's a triumphant moment for the prisoners that this movie ends, but it's like, Crewe put so many people in danger at the beginning. Like, it'll be a miracle if all those people survived with us in that pile. It's a miracle he survived.
It does make you wonder, like, when they get back to the prison, will the beatings resume? Like, will things just go back to the way they were? Will the beatings become worse?
From the guards, that's okay. Maybe
it's the only one that turns around is Fichtner. Nash is okay because he's on estrogen.
Yeah, because it kind of feels like the only outsider by the end of it is the warden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does almost feel like either it's triumphant and everybody just served their time like normally,
mm-hmm.
or there's something dark after the end of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, does Turley go back to his like single solitary place playing ping pong against himself? Like, what happens here?
I don't know, because he bribed him with ping pong to defend him on the field.
Yeah.
All right, should we we've brought it up for a few comparisons. Should we work our way officially into the replacements?
Yeah.
Please start us off.
It definitely doesn't hold up as well as it did in the past.
How long had it been since you've seen it before last time?
A few years at least. All the way through, longer than that.
Yeah, because
it came out in what, 2000?
Yeah. 20th anniversary for The Replacements, if anybody's interested. Because I saw it once all the way through when I was renting movies religiously.
You mean when you were going to Blockbuster and just hoovering up every movie in the aisle you hadn't seen?
Yeah, which was a lifestyle for like a whole decade of my life, all the way up until they all closed, really.
Yeah.
And then, which is great because it was that's an education of movies in itself and filmmaking. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw only that once all the way through. But it was on movie channels constantly.
Yeah.
And either you or Dad was always stopping on it. So I would always see it in pieces as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it all the way through in preparation for this. That's my history. and nothing changed, really.
Yeah.
What was it? Do you remember what you used to like so much about it that maybe not so much now?
Just the different, like, misfit characters. But I think the reason it doesn't work now is because now we've seen that so many times.
Yeah, because it was definitely a bunch of cliches in the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're 20 years after the fact, cliches have only gotten significantly more cliche.
Yeah, and as I've seen more movies that came out before it, that doesn't help either.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
there are still some things that I like. I enjoyed Jon Favreau in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny to see.
I love the fact that he's literal. Like, after he gets Gene Hackman the ball, and he just stands there for a minute, and Gene Hackman has to tell him, "Go sit down."
And it is one of those cases where it's, in a sense, it doesn't work because it is just one joke.
Mm-hmm.
But also, in a sense, time has kind of been good to it because he's almost exclusively now an acclaimed director. Like, almost exclusively. Like, even if you don't like the Jungle Book or Lion King remakes, they are technical marvels, and he's got a great hold on.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an incredible vision.
Yeah.
He's also responsible for The Mandalorian.
He kickstarted the MCU.
Yeah. You can even throw Elf into that mix. Elf is a classic, even though it's still a comedy. It's absolutely a classic now.
Yeah.
And it's like, to go back and see him do something like this it's like time has been good to it in a sense as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I was telling you, it's the reverse of the Kevin Nash thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at the time, it was unexpected, but now it's kind of worn off because it's not. But now the Favreau thing is unexpected if you know him for what you know him for now, and then you go back and watch The Replacements.
It's kind of like at the time he wasn't. Well, he was well known, but I'm trying to equate this to Quentin Tarantino popping up in Little Nicky.
That sounds about right. Especially since we're in
So was there anything at all that you did like about The Replacements? Did anything work for you? It's got to be the nicest character Gene Hackman's ever played.
Yeah.
Like, friendliest, I mean.
Yeah, and I feel like there should be a bit more to he and Jack Warden having scenes together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, two legendary actors sharing scenes.
Yeah.
Sort of like seeing Ernest Borgnine and Robert Vaughn in Basketball. But it's just, unfortunately, I wish there was more to that, but it's really just them doing exposition.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's nice to see them together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels like it gives the movie some sort of, like, reason for being. But, yeah, because you'll notice also, when you look at the way it's handled, like we talked about Peter Sagal,
Mm-hmm.
and now he was pretty well suited for The Longest Yard, I would say, because he can do certain things right.
Yeah.
Did you catch the director of The Replacements?
I don't remember who it was.
Howard Deutsch.
Which has done what?
Well, he's most famous for doing Pretty in Pink, and he did like Some Kind of Wonderful, and then the movie we just talked about that he did was The Great Outdoors.
That explains the love story out of nowhere with Keanu.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Mhm.
I've got some things to say about that. But the thing about Howard Deutsch here is that The Great Outdoors isn't necessarily a lot like Pretty in Pink or Some Kind of Wonderful. Apart from the fact they're all written by John Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
The Replacements kind of sticks out then. I mean, you've got the slapstick comedy of The Great Outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a meshing of him and John Hughes that just worked.
Mm-hmm.
Putting Howard Deutsch on a movie like this screams director for hire. Like it's one of those cases where the movie is nobody's baby.
Mm-hmm.
You just have the idea for the movie, you've got a basic script, and you just need a director with experience. So you just call on a random person that has directing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing about this movie feels particularly inspired. Like it doesn't feel like it's coming from any place of passion whatsoever. It is literally just a churned out movie of that 2000s era.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got some characters moving around here, like Brett Cullen is interesting in retrospect, who would go on to be in the Batman world twice. He was the Congressman in The Dark Knight Rises. He was Thomas Wayne in Joker.
Yeah.
He's the guy. He's like the rival. He's basically the antagonist of the movie, pretty much.
Yeah, and he's just a dick. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and then there's Reese Evans, who is like, I don't really care much for the one joke that he is, where he's just like the really hyped up guy that's in debt.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the way he just saunters everywhere. Because that's what just half of his screen time is him just sauntering around. Did you recognize the deaf guy?
Yeah, it's Roy from The Office.
Yeah, David Denman.
Yeah.
I totally forgot he was in this.
I did too.
I saw his name in the opening credits and was like, huh, I don't remember him in this. And then as soon as he appears, he's instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
He's much more of a baby face, like clean shaven, than he is as Roy.
Yeah.
Because he was also Kitty Holmes' new husband in Logan Lucky.
You also have Orlando Jones, which Orlando Jones is definitely a product of his time.
Yeah, I talked about Evolution a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he is a funny dude, but he's also like, his comedic style in this was very like remember Double Take?
Yeah.
With Eddie Griffin.
Dude, if you want to see Orlando Jones do something really good, I know you don't like cop dramas, but there's an episode of Law & Order SVU that he's in that he plays like an aging rapper that was in a gang. Dude, he's good in that.
Oh,
He has a really good scene with Ice-T at the end of that episode.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Me and a friend were just talking recently about the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia cast.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how every actor, comedy or drama has their Law & Order episode. Because both Rob McElhenney and Charlie Day have a Law & Order episode.
Yeah. It's funny, like, I know you hate the procedural dramas, but there's a lot of good performances that come out of that in SVU. I'm sure you heard about Robin Williams' performance.
Yeah, I saw that episode.
Yeah. So I know it's drawn out formula for you, but there's some good performances that have been churned out. Martin Short is fantastic in his episode.
I didn't see it, but I feel like he would be.
He plays a character that pretends to be psychic, but he's faking it, and he's actually the killer. And the way that he like buys into his own bullshit, like he's really good at. You got to check it out. He's really good in it. Check out the Martin Short episode.
Is this a statement on The Replacement that it was this easy to get off track?
Well, let's come back. You said that you were going to get to the love story in a minute. Because when I was watching it, I was like, this came out of nowhere.
Okay. So it's a comedy from you could say the late 90s or the early 2000s, because it's right in the center at 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So in that era of comedy, this girl, who isn't a big name or anything, we haven't really seen her much around.
Mm-hmm.
Like this movie is in her known for on IMDb. That tells you.
Yeah.
And she's got this big entrance,
Mm-hmm.
which immediately, to me as an audience member, makes me say, "Oh, hello, filler.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, reason this movie's 2 hours." So here's the thing: is they could have tried to do something with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
These characters aren't always going to be filler if you have something for them to do.
Yeah.
But so many of these comedies gave this type of character a bad name by just doing roles like this, because there's still people today who get all bent out of shape about, like, prominent roles that women have.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, that just seems like it's there just because. But they've been like, giving those roles as much purpose as they can has been helping a lot in making movies more interesting instead of having characters like this.
And going back to The Longest Yard, I think something that makes it interesting is with its environment, there is no character like that. There's no love story to get in the way of what's going on.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not just a love story. It's one of those fucking annoying ones. She goes to his goddamn boat so many times just to not be at his boat.
Mm-hmm.
She will go to his boat and he will say, "Do you want to come in and have a beer with me?" And she's like, "I really shouldn't." So she doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was another scene later. "Hey, you're here at my boat. You want to come in, sit down, talk for a little bit?" "Oh, I really shouldn't." "Why do you keep coming back to the boat just to not be here?" Because the movie wants to be 2 hours for no goddamn reason. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to have the moment where it's like he stands her up at dinner because he can't face her, because he's a failure, because Brett Cullen came back. He can't just say, "Oh, Brett Cullen came back, so they told me to fuck off." No,
I wish that's how he would have explained it.
I'm a broken man. Brett Cullen broke me. I can't face you. I'm just going to stand you up and make you look at lit candles sadly because conflict. Even though this becomes nothing, because she goes to the big game at the end, there's no reconciliation. It's just, "Hey, we won." And she's like, "Hey, you won. That's great. Let's embrace," because for some reason, all movies like this in this era needed to end with us embracing. Why?
Because Rocky started that. Well, no, actually it didn't, because in the first one there is no embrace because she's not even there.
What are we talking about?
The first Rocky.
Yeah, that ends with an embrace.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I thought she was watching from home. Maybe I'm thinking of a different one.
No, because she's running through the crowd going, "Rocky," when he's saying
Oh,
it.
yeah.
She runs into the ring.
I must be thinking of something else. Okay, then Rocky did start that.
God, Rocky's so good. Here's the thing is, I just said that about Shane Falco and whatever the hell her name was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, fuck off. That's dumb. I almost got emotional just now talking about that scene in Rocky. Yeah, that's another thing.
I'm gonna throw my hat down. I'm gonna throw my gauntlet down. I know the Rocky series is beloved. I'd say the two Creed movies are right up there with it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that'll tell you Creed 1 is. A lot of people didn't like Creed 2, but buy the replacements for leaving you again.
I love the Creed movies. Bring on Creed 3 now, please.
Okay, I've got to run something by you. It's something so blatantly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't mentioned yet. Maybe I'm alone in it, I don't know. But there was a long period here where Keanu Reeves was relentlessly made fun of for his acting.
Yeah.
And now post John Wick, you can't do that anymore. Post John Wick, people are obsessed with him.
Well, they also, thanks to the internet, we found out that Keanu Reeves is one of the nicest human beings on the planet.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
So take away this trend. I mean, he's like, yeah, he's a nice guy. And yeah, he definitely does have talent. And God bless John Wick for existing.
Mm-hmm.
But taking this trend out of everything, taking this trend out of your thoughts, Shane Falco is not interesting in the absolute fucking slightest.
Well, they don't do anything to try to make him interesting. They give him, like, a backstory, but we don't do anything with it.
They give him that stupid quicksand metaphor, making it seem like it's the most profound thing anybody has ever said in the history of ever.
I mean, in a room with all those dudes, though, that's probably the case.
But yeah, you say, and it's even more annoying because this has been a trend a lot in movies where you have a protagonist that can seem not very interesting if you have a lot of colorful side characters.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes you look even more uninteresting when all your colorful side characters are one joke. Rhys Ifans can saunter all he wants to. Favreau can scream and run into shit all he wants to. They're all one joke.
Do you think do you think in The Longest Yard that Sandler suffered from that, or do you think they kept him interesting enough?
He at least had those moments, like when I was talking about with the "oh, that's great, what" delivery, and there's also the moment when Nicholas Turturro says, "Hey, why can't I be quarterback?" And then he throws the ball, and Sandler says, "That's why, sit down." He had moments like that.
He had a second one, but I don't remember what it was.
Apart from that stupid quicksand bullshit, I can't tell you a single thing Shane Falco ever said. I got nothing. Oh shit, my car's turned over again. He probably said that once, right?
No, I don't even think he really responded to it. I think he just went about his business. And I do agree with you. The way that they build him up, like the way Hackman builds him up, he should have been the most interesting character of all of them.
Yeah.
The way that he was built up.
Yeah,
maybe it's a case where Keanu Reeves is just too clean cut. Keanu Reeves worked on a boat, but he was still, give me somebody that was in fuck my life mode.
It's always a damn boat. It's always a boat.
I consider myself moderately successful, and I have nowhere near the funds to get a boat. How do all these movie failures have boats?
Especially because that's where they all spend their time. That's all they do is they lay on their boat.
Yeah.
Fucking anybody from Tim Allen and Joe Somebody to Downey and Zodiac spent fuck my life mode on a boat. Everybody's done it. Obviously he starts on the boat and he does his underwater football thing. That's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's when it's like there's this guy, there's this guy, there's this guy with this backstory, that guy with that backstory, and then there's the one, the biggest choice of them all, the one and the only Shane Falco, and it's this motherfucker just laying on a boat. It's like, of course it's a motherfucker laying on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is cliche. You know what else? You know what else makes this movie cross over into, oh my God, with the cliches. Please stop assaulting us with cliches.
Are you going to talk about when they danced?
Pretty much. I was going to say the soundtrack in general.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Okay, so is every single sports comedy song cliche in here? You've got Rock and Roll Part 2. You've got Spirit in the Sky.
Speaking of things that don't translate to 2020, Rock and Roll Part 2.
Yeah. You've got reuniting with Brett Cullen. You've got Good Vibrations. And of course you've got that Everybody Dance Now song. Of course you do. And I swear to God, if I hear Spirit in the Sky in any movie ever again, like
It's in a
people are
lot of
talking,
sports movies too.
yeah, like people are talking about Miami Blues is the only movie exempt from this. But people are talking about that movie Life, the Jake Gyllenhaal sci-fi movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my God, the ending. Oh my God, the ending was insane. Oh my God, that was so shocking. It's like there is nothing shocking about an ending. If Spirit in the Sky is playing, there's never, ever going to be anything shocking about anything related to Spirit in the Sky playing in a movie.
Do you think there's ever been a song that's appeared in a movie more than Spirit in the Sky?
Oh my God, I know there's an answer to this. Hey, you know what? Maybe I Will Survive is the answer. And what do we have here?
Wait a minute. I have to, where you gave your example for Spirit in the Sky, I have an example for I Will Survive. It's best when Tony Clifton sings it.
Yep. Because not only that, that's just, I feel like we're doing the Rocky thing again. It's like the ending of Man on the Moon is so perfect. And the song, I mean, how much more suiting of a song could there be for that moment in Man on the Moon?
Yeah.
Like, it's so good, it's almost too on the nose, but it's perfect.
And so for you, it serves a purpose.
Yes. And now, and you could have said In and Out, but a lot of people consider In and Out to be way too dated now.
In and Out's another one that has a hard time translating.
Yeah. But here's the thing about the I Will
Survive. It's a shame because Kevin Kline's brilliant in it.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, about the I Will Survive bullshit. Is so many, we've talked about this so much, to the point that I'm just so fucking exhausted with it. You reach a point in your comedy that's way too long. You need filler, but you want so badly to be seen as a feel-good movie. So you do this in the laziest way possible, where you have your characters do one of two things or both at the same time, sing or dance. Usually it's in a car. Or whenever it's not in a car, they're usually dancing as well.
How do you feel about the way Remember the Titans did it?
At least Remember the Titans is an inspirational movie. But here you've got this bullshit that's just here to be here. And it's that thing where it's just them vigorously looking out to the audience saying, this is the time where you feel good in the movie, because it's a feel-good movie. Look how feel-good we are. Doesn't this movie just fill you with joy? Aren't you going to leave the theater smiling like a fucking insane person because we had our characters dance like they're entertaining toddlers?
Well, what's funny, though, too, is the narration over the dancing tells you that Nothing happened with those dudes. They all just lost their jobs.
Yeah. I hope I'm not too loud. The thing is I've probably seemed shouty in the last two videos. I mentioned this before.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really loud fan going that you miraculously can't hear through the computer, and I'm talking over it to hear myself. But I also am just really annoyed with the replacements, so that's probably not helping either.
I was
Like I
going to
said,
say, are you being loud with the fans, or are you just annoyed at the replacements?
We're probably not making any new fans here because obviously people would follow Keanu off a cliff in 2020, and a lot of people do like this movie. But I was hoping, and I hate to feel like a downer because I feel like we've talked about a lot of movies recently where I say I don't think they hold up comedy-wise. And that's disappointing.
Looking at you, the Marine.
Yeah, and like we were talking about, some of the stuff in Grandma's Boy wasn't working for me
Although
anymore.
although you did enjoy the joke when he was like, "How did you see?" or "How did he see me?"
Yeah, like I love going back to stuff that's still great, and we've come across those. We've done those, but
I wonder how many people have watched our videos and been like, "How can he trash the replacements but praise basketball?"
I know, but that's the joy, I hope, of being able to talk at great length the way we do, where it's easy to just say, how can you like this one thing but not this other thing?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if we can talk for like a half an hour about one movie and then talk for half an hour about another movie, if you don't get why there's a differing opinion in yours within those spans of time, I think you're the problem. So, yeah. It's like that fucking guy where we spent an hour talking about The Dark Knight Rises. And there's a comment on that video of a guy just saying, I don't get why people like The Dark Knight Rises. So anyway, that's YouTube comments for you. Sorry for the cool people that leave comments, but you're amongst horrible people. So, is that it? Anything else on the replacements for you?
No, I think you're fired up enough.
Okay, so I didn't get a chance to tell you. I was going to, and then I forgot. I have an idea for the next video.
Okay.
And it's movies that I feel like hold up for us pretty well. It's one that me and you watched together not that long ago, maybe a year or so ago. We watched it together again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see if you want to do that, and then we'll see where that goes.
Okay.
Well,
are you going to bring it up now, or is this an off-camera discussion?
These two movies fit together like a glove.
Okay. Do I have access to both of them?
I repeat, these two movies fit together like a glove.
Oh, okay. I got you.
You got me? Alrighty then.
You know, I have to drive to the store later, and I might just take the bumpiest road I know so I can just... I might buy some gum while I'm there, too.
Can I assume that...
maybe I'll run into Dan Marino.
Can I assume this video suits you?
Oh my god! It's funny that you bring this up. Are you talking about a sequel too?
Yes.
Okay. I was golfing last week, and somebody pulled up in a golf cart, and somebody said the line, I can't remember, from Cadby's or something like that. They said the person's name. Like, I heard a quote in the wild, on the golf course from the sequel. And the guy said it just like Ace did. And I had to stop in my golf cart and just giggle for a minute. Oh, man.
All right, so there's not confirmation when we're doing our next one, but I guess we can assume what it's going to be.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk about the mask.
Yeah, the Truman Show, I can't wait to revisit it.
Yeah, I mean, we already touched on Man on the Moon today.
I do plan on doing the Truman Show at some point. It's just a matter of with what. I've got a couple of ideas in mind.
Ed TV?
Huh?
Ed TV?
That's the one Owen keeps singing. I'm thinking more of Albert Brooks' Real Life, but we'll see. So, so that's what's going on. So, do you have anything else to add?
No. I can't wait to talk about the Majestic.
All right.